Richard Dennis grew $400 into $200 million. And what was his win rate? A measly 30%. Now, if you're new to trading, that sounds almost impossible. How can someone lose 70% of their trades and still be one of the most successful traders in history? Most beginners obsess over being right as much as possible. They chase high win rate strategies, thinking that winning more will automatically make them more money. In today's episode, we're going to break down the psychology and mathematics behind win rates versus returns. You'll discover why trend following strategies consistently outperform mean reversion strategies, while having a lower win rate compared to mean reversion. We'll also expose the hidden dangers of high win rate strategies and the skew that can blow up accounts. This episode is about understanding that in trading, being right and making money are often completely different things. Let's get straight into this episode. Richard Dennis made $200 million with a very below average win rate. It's reported to be 30%, and over the decades he traded, he grew $400 into over $200 million. But how is that even possible if he's only winning 30% of the time? Well, in this podcast, we want to go over the pros and cons of a high and low win rate strategy, and also the differences where it actually doesn't matter most of the time. It doesn't matter if you have a high win rate or a low win rate, but you're going to get different characteristics in your equity curve. And then also how that overlaps into different strategy types and how that really affects, end results. First, Pedma, do you want to kind of go over, I guess, how Richard Dennis sort of traded? Because I know it's quite similar to you. Obviously, it's not the exact same criteria and things like that, but at least in principle of having a lower win rate.
So yes, Richard Dennis is mostly known for starting the Turtle Traders program, right? So where he put a bunch of traders together back in the day and made them all trade trend following strategy during one of the best periods for trend following. The idea behind trend following is that you are mostly betting on these outlier or tail type of trades, right? And you're trying to extract that from the market. And many times you won't capture those. There's many times in the market where there isn't outliers available all the time, right? And what happened is that most of the time, when you put your returns on equity, like on a bell curve, you'll have a bunch of tiny losses, a bunch of tiny wins, and over time, you also see this very long tail where you make very large returns, right? But the issue is that your win rate is typically very low in the 30s, 20s, between 20 and 40% is the normal range for a trend follower. And that's basically what Richard Dennis did. And yeah, that's a style of trade that even today we still trade. There's variations of what some trend followers do, but we all follow the same path, that is a lot of trades, diversified, and many losses, and sometimes you win big, but your win rate will always be small.
Yeah, I think because especially when I got into trading, there's a natural inclination that you want to be right as much as possible, right? Like you just can't be losing a ton. But ultimately, that isn't the truth. You can have very solid strategies like trend following strategies that don't win that often, but when they do, it's normally quite outsized. So traditionally, that just means a higher risk to reward, whereas a strategy that has, let's say, a 70% win rate is going to be very difficult to really ever find a strategy that has a 70% win rate, and then each time it's getting 10 risk to reward, for example. Most of the time, those sort of strategies that have 70% win rate are going to be more 1-to-1, maybe 1-to-2, at least traditionally from what I found, especially because most of the time when you have a higher win rate, it normally means you're doing some sort of mean reversion strategy. What a mean reversion strategy is primarily is where prices moved away from a fair value. So that could be anything as basic as, like a moving average or VWAP or whatever. And it's got two extended, and then it's primarily going to be reversed back to the mean or to the fair value. Now that fair value could be moving. So like as a moving average over time, that moving average may, creep up higher, but at least price will retrace some amount. So that's the classic sort of bounce trades or shorting overextensions. That's traditionally also like in small caps a lot. It also can happen a lot in crypto, like bounce plays in crypto the past year have worked amazingly well, just because of how exaggerated they've been. Now, obviously, you have to be on somewhat of a higher time frame. If you try and do it on 1 minute, you're going to get completely killed for the most part. But that is why, for the most part, he could have 200 million in profits from a very low win rate. Even though when you get started in trading, you're thinking, hey, it has to be like you have to win more than 50% of the time.
Yeah, it also helped that it was one of the best times to do trend following
True.
when no one was doing it and trend was really, really strong, right? But yeah, it doesn't mean that you cannot make money if you don't. Like, we have this tendency, right? You don't want to lose money a lot of times. It's hard to go through like a 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, whatever, streak of losing money every month. And but the reality is that traders usually try to go for higher win rate strategies. But the issue is that those higher win rate strategies are not perfect as well. They have usually this negative skew that is associated with them. When I say a negative skew, is that you have like a long tail to the left, or to the distribution of your wins and losses, which means sometimes, even if you don't see it on a backtest, you have that risk of blowing up, right? And that is expressed on strategies like selling volatility or shorting small cap equities. Even though they are very high win rate strategies, usually because you win way more times than you lose, you always have that hidden left tail that eventually you might take a very large loss, and if you are not careful, you might blow up.
Yeah, like I kind of, I guess, going a bit deeper into that, I remember someone asked me, what would you pick? He was saying like, if the returns were the exact same, would you pick a higher win rate strategy or a lower win rate strategy? I think the key caveat to that question is if they are the same returns, which I'll get into in just a second, but it's normally never really the case. But if it was the exact same returns, I think logically it only makes sense to pick a higher win rate strategy. Because one, you have less long drawdown periods. You can compound faster because you're getting through less consecutive losses in a row, meaning you can kind of compound your size even faster. Um, and then also it's just a lot easier on the mental if you're winning a lot more of the time. Now, the caveat to that though is most low win rate strategies, like trend following, for example, will normally outperform mean reversion over a long enough time horizon in returns. And it's because you do get those outsized winners. While let's say the average trend following winner, maybe let's say 1 to 5 risk to reward, you will get one play that maybe does 1 to 20, 1 to 30. And now, are those going to be very common? No, they're definitely going to be the outlier trades, but you're never really going to have that in a mean reversion sense. Maybe here and there, but definitely not as common, let's say, as in trend following. So the reality of that question is you have to be comfortable with that. If you're doing mean reversion, you're probably going to get a bit lower returns and you're probably going to have more sudden drops, let's say in drawdown, but you're going to be more consistent the rest of the time. But in trend following, you're going to have to deal with very long periods of just losing, constant losing, not having a winning trade. And then you may have a trade that does, amazingly well. There is one last caveat I'll say. I know this is a bit of a rant, but the reason trend following strategies are also quite dangerous, especially if you're executing them manually, is if you miss that outlier trade, you have really ruined like your return profile primarily, because it may take quite a while before you see that again, depending on your sort of time frame. Would you have the sort of same response, Padma?
Um, I would disagree a little bit with your last point on the when you would say about the trend following if you miss a trade. I do agree that if you do miss a trade, like it's a very at that point is clear. Like if you miss the outlier, you are really like how can I say it? You are really like putting a dent on your long-term performance, and you don't want to do that. You need to be operationally good at it, right? But if you are a good trend follower, you usually are not missing like those outliers because you can enter either tomorrow or the next day if you missed it or whatever. If you completely missed a trade, uh, you probably are not doing trend following it that well, or you don't have the infrastructure necessary to operate it, in my opinion. Because it's like the signal is always there. You can always allocate to a trend following signal. It doesn't have to be at a specific price. In most cases, I'm not saying you are going to execute 6 months from now, right, from a signal, but I'm saying that the trend following strategies are a little bit more lenient on the execution side, not as forgiving. They are more forgiving than, for example, a mean reversion strategy. Those require more that you are more accurate with your entries, right? Because they're usually very short term in nature. I, I, as a trend follower, have the preference towards trend following strategies. I think they are more forgiving to mistakes. I find it easier for myself to explain why trends exist, why trends should persist to exist in the future. I find myself, I find it easier for myself to explain why I'm going through drawdowns and stuff like that. There's a lot of there's a lot of reasons why I do prefer trend following. Now, if I had a strategy that I can win way more than I lose, and I know that there's capacity for it and I can trade for a very long period of time that edge, sure. I would prefer that. It's easier to stick with, you know. But I find that with those strategies comes a different type of burden. That is, you have to be always on top of your game and updating a strategy and working on it. It's two different things. Own, for my own way of being, I don't know how to say it. For my own psychology, if you want to say that, I do prefer the nature of trend strategy. I can explain it better.
No, it's fair. Regarding your first point, you're completely correct. I definitely overlooked that. Is that if you are doing something that's, let's say, a high time frame, for example, like my trend following strategies in futures are not, they're not like 1 minute, but they're, let's say, 30, 60 minute, etc. So you can't really get away with entering that much later. Maybe if it's a couple minutes, that's totally fine. But like, yes, you are right. If you're doing something on a weekly, daily, even hourly, if you're entering it the next couple of bars, you're totally fine. Especially in like crypto, because from your research and what I've also kind of checked as well, you can pretty much enter 2 days late, and it's not going to really affect the return profile that much.
Yeah, I think in all markets that you are doing long-term trend following, so daily, weekly, bars, whatever, it's if I would say that if your strategy dies out because you entered a few days later or or a few hours later or whatever, like you missed it, it's you did something wrong with your strategy. Um, that this type of strategy are pretty lenient with your execution. For example, a few other examples of people that do trend or momentum strategy. For example, is Brian Lee. I know him from Twitter. He's posting always like the statistics of his trades, and I was just checking up his August performance, and it's pretty interesting that um, he had like a 20% win rate, not even 20. It was 19.9% win rate, and his average win during August was 5 times the average loss. Like you can even go back in, for example, on September, the month after, his win rate was 34%. The average win was 5, and the average loss was 1 hour. Like you can see that I'm seeing another. I don't know. He didn't put a month in, but in this month he had 18% win rate. Like this is the nature of these types of systems, is that you are losing way more time, and the idea is that over long periods of time you make those average wins way higher than the average loss, and that compensates over large samples. Now you cannot be analyzing it at every individual trade because it's going to cost you. Like you're going to be sad about it, if you are going at it from individual trades. But if you put, instead of individual trades, you analyze your performance by every 30 trades or every 3 months or every 6 months, then you start putting you start to allow that law of large numbers to realize itself in the performance, and then you'll start seeing better results. But you have to have the mental capacity to take those losses on a daily basis and continue moving forward, which is the hard part.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I also, you are right with more saying like trend following is more lenient because in mean reversion, I think anyone that's traded the markets for a decent period of time, like short trades disappear the fastest, and that's why like especially in my futures portfolio, while I have normally about 30% of the like total trade count normally being short based, the actual like P&L I'm going to get from those is quite small most of the time. The only reason I really do it is mainly for diversification, and then also in those off periods where it does catch a very nice signal, it can make up for a lot of returns lost, let's say on trend following. So it's a nice diversification factor in it. But to get a signal that captures short trades consistently and well is 10 times harder than doing like a long signal, for example, on trend following. Like just longing is just a lot easier, especially in most of these uptrending markets.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But even longing on reversion signal, conversion signals, or whatever you want to call it, like even those usually have this tendency to have small payoffs, and the average loss can be quite high, in my opinion.
Yeah, no,
Which
that's fair.
I want to make the caveat that I'm not saying that it is a bad system, right? There's a lot of people that trade those types of systems. There's systematic quants that quant traders that use like stuff like HFT models and stuff like that trade a lot. And that's fine. That's all fine. I'm just saying that it is not my preference.
Yeah, I'd also say like when I first started trading, it was a lot easier for me to view something why it would go down, for example, in small caps. Uh
Yeah.
and like we're a systematic podcast. We both trade very systematically, but I do think there is an element of truth in that you normally will have an inclination of what you have more conviction on just by default. At least from that's what I've seen from talking to multiple different traders. Like just different traders approach the market in a different way. And I do think if you can build your initial strategy or your main portfolio around that sort of view, it's so much easier to hold on to trades and strategies based on that. Because you're very good at like trend following over the long haul will work. You'll find going through those long periods of drawdowns. And for me, when I initially started in small caps, I was just overly confident that everything would go down. Now, obviously, that can definitely bite you in the ass as well. But if someone tried to make me long a small cap, my God, I would have been 10 times worse in small caps compared to just initially shorting them. Now, obviously, there was an edge there, so that's paid off very well for that. But I do think aligning with whatever your natural version of it can be, I think can be beneficial at least at the start because it takes time to kind of get out of those initial habits of why you have that conviction. Now, like I find longing quite easy, pretty much the same, but definitely when I started, I thought everything was just going to zero.
Yeah, in small cups, the nature is really like it's so much easier to short, in my opinion. It's like you get a very large up there, like or a gap up, right? Or a gap up like 70%, and you know that is the stock in play today, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, and like and if you are going to apply like a momentum or trend strategy to that sort of market, it would have to be like a basket. Like you don't have the specificity that you know what is the stock in play today. You have to almost like cast a net and try to capture whatever the stock is going to run, and that is a very hard task in my opinion because especially in a market where everything crashes and goes to zero, right? So yeah, I understand why shorting is much easier on that market. But yeah, it's like I say, it's whatever it works for you initially, like whatever is your business, and just expand on it after. You don't. The idea is that people don't get uh, like in a prison, like, oh, because other traders say, oh no, this is the appropriate way. Like last week, I don't know who was telling me. I posted my equity curve for the last 3 years or whatever, and the person was like, oh, all your returns come from one major pump in the middle of your chart, which is true. And we could go into that later, but not on this or not on today's episode. But which is true. I've had a very large return during 2024 that jumped my entire portfolio. But the issue is that you don't see that before I was up almost 120% in a single year. And this year I'm up I'm up over 50% just this year, before and after that major jump. And like people will criticize you. Doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter if you turn like $100 into a million, in 10 million. No one you will find always someone to say that your strategy, the way that you trade is wrong because you should have this or you should have that. And my advice is focus on what works for you, ignore everyone else because they are underperforming and trying to find ways just to, bring them to your level.
Yeah, I agree. I also think like the people that say that, I just kind of instantly know like they could be profitable, but the chances that they're, you know, like let's say a trader I would admire is very little. Because all the best traders I know are quite open-minded. They know like in trading you have to be adaptable and you can't be hating on someone else's approach just because you think there's like a fundamental flaw. While yes, maybe there could be, you could still learn something from it. You could see different ways of it. Also, like just on your point of like having one year that does outsized returns, this is pretty much typical in almost every strategy type. Like anyone that was trading small caps during 2020 to 2021 made
Yeah.
so much of their bulk returns through there. And like, have they done good now? Yes, they've continued to do well. But like, has it been crazy amounts like then? No. Same thing with like OTCs. Like OTCs were very popular back then, and now they're pretty much a dead market. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you can find the opportunities while they're working and exploit them, and then get your kind of outsized year, and then the rest of your years are smaller returns, that's still amazing. You've still done a great job.
Yeah, we know people firsthand that have done multiple hundreds of percent or even thousands of percent verified. We're not talking here about stories, right?
Yeah.
During 2020 and 2021. And what do you expect? Are you going to say, oh, everything else after, even if they have a good CAGR, whatever, like everything after doesn't compare because they got lucky during those years? Like, no, it's just cycles. If you are here for the long term, you will go through good cycles for your own strategies, right? And you don't exploit them at capacity because that's what you work for, and then continue to produce returns.